Are you walking in joy? And do you rejoice knowing that you're part of Christ's kingdom? Those are the questions we're looking at today. I'm Dr. Andrew Marquez, and this is the Baptist on the Bible podcast. Here is your 7 at 7 devotion. I try to put these devotions out every Monday and Friday at 7 a.m. to encourage you. And we're looking at a series called Keeping Christ in Christmas. And last time we were together, we talked about how Christ brought us communion with the Father. He is God with us in his coming, and that Christ brought harmony with our fellow men, that men and women across the world are united in the blood of Christ, and he can bring us peace. Today we're going to continue with this theme, and we're looking at the importance of joy. Joy and being included. And so we're going to look at a few of the verses. Again, we're spending most of our time at the beginning of Matthew and Luke, but we're looking first at the joy that we have, that we rejoice together because Christ is come. And as we look at Christmas and we think about what we're celebrating, Advent is the season where we are excited about the coming of Christ, not just to the manger, but the coming of Christ the King, once again to come to the world and to claim his throne that would be evident to all the world who would see him in glory. And so we're looking both backwards at the first coming of Christ and forward to the second coming of Christ. And this should cause us joy. So the first verse I just wanted to look at, it's really a common one. It is coming from Luke 2:10. The angel said, "Do not be afraid, for look, I proclaim to you good news of great joy that will be for all people." We have good news, the gospel, being proclaimed by angels that will be of great joy. You know, so oftentimes we think of Christians and we think of solemnity. We think of perhaps people that are legalistic or maybe fearful. And these pictures are really not a biblical picture that we should be seeing. We should be seeing people that really are joyous people. It doesn't mean that we're not serious about serving God in the way he's called us to, but we have joy and we rejoice together, knowing that Jesus Christ has come and he's coming again. And so, you know, our worship services, there are times that they should be solemn, but often there should be joy. We are people of the gospel, and we come together as a church to rejoice that Jesus has come. So joy is to be realized in the life of a believer. Mark Twain has a great quote. He says, "Half of life consists of the capacity to enjoy without the chance, and the last half consists of the chance without the capacity." And it's just a great, clever way of putting things. But, you know, so often we're looking in the future, I'll be able to do this. When I grow up, I'll be able to do that. And then as we get older, we're saying, if only I was younger and I could enjoy the things that I used to. And we kind of miss the bigger picture. One of the fruits of the Spirit, in fact, is joy. And so as we grow closer to Christ and we live in the Spirit, we will have an enduring joy that helps us even to overcome the difficulties that life brings. The hardships that we're called to endure, the persecutions that we face, those are not going to eliminate our joy, but rather enrich our joy, knowing that we might suffer for the cause of Christ. So that is one thing. Keep Christ in Christmas by rejoicing in this season. And the next thing I want to look at is the cause for joy. A major cause for joy is inclusion. We are included in the kingdom. Let's look at Matthew chapter 2, verse 6. It says, "Out of you, Bethlehem," that's what we're referring to here, "will come a leader who will shepherd my people." We have a king who has come to give us guidance. We are his sheep and he is our shepherd. This king is coming and has come to give us a sense of belonging and leadership. And then this kingdom that he establishes will not end. If we go back to Luke 1:33, it says, "He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom will have no end." Jesus tells us that if we are his sheep, we hear his voice, that when he calls, that we listen, and that we have a family that we've been made part of. And rather than being captives of sin and being slaves to the devil, we are now united as sons and daughters, included in the body of Christ, and included in his great church, which will ultimately be revealed in power and majesty in his kingdom when his kingdom truly comes. And so we are included into something new. I don't know if you were ever maybe not good at athletics, and we would choose captains, right? And there was always one person who nobody wanted on the team. They weren't athletically good, or they weren't very popular. And it's always disappointed when someone is not included. Well, Christ includes us in his family despite our sin, despite our failures, our frailties. He includes us in his family, and he calls us his brothers and sisters. The Father calls us our sons and daughters. There's a Scottish preacher, he says, talking to his son about heaven, the son said, "It just seems too good to be true." And the preacher said, it's George MacDonald, he says, "No, son, it's just so good that it must be true." There's some things that are just so universally wonderful that they have to be beyond human imagination. They must be true because we couldn't even think of things so wonderful. Ultimate inclusion. When Christ comes, he will welcome us home, and he says, "Enter into the joy of your Father." I hope that you'll think of those things. How do you really recognize in your own life that you belong to God's family? One way is to be active in the visible family, which is the church. Are you active with the church? That will help you feel a part of the family of faith. And then, are you walking in joy? Do you wake up in the morning and have a sense of fulfillment and joy? Pray that God would fill you with joy as he promises as we grow in his Spirit that he will. So I hope that encourages you today. Let's keep Christ in our Christmas by walking in joy and standing as members of his family today. If you've enjoyed this devotion and the other devotions that are coming out, please consider taking a moment and just sharing this post either on Facebook or social media or liking it. Some podcasts let you rate the podcast. That would help to get the word out to more people, because we have a large number of people today that are not walking in joy. Let's try to spread some Christmas cheer by sharing what God has done. I hope you will. God bless and take care.